Yo, what is up? So, I was on a rant on my Instagram stories, and I'm trying to get into the habit. My bad, I'm trying to charge my phone in. I gotta get into the habit of not like posting too much on my stories because most of you guys, when I do it, you don't watch them, and you're hurting my algorithm by not watching them, and then you're also making me very sad when you don't watch my stories, making me feel like a loser. So, I'm gonna stop doing that, and I'm gonna start learning from my mistakes and just doing lives where you can watch if you want to, or you can skip and not watch if you don't want to. Yo, what up? Klaus, what's up, man? But yeah, so the what up, G? So yeah, the whole purpose of this video is about comparison. Just because if you've seen any of my recent YouTube videos, what I've been trying to do lately is I go on Reddit, I try to find popular posts, things that people seem to like share and have in common and seem to really relate to. And I'll look at the title, and I'll look at the actual content and vacation time coming soon. Yo, I meant to reach out to you and Caden. Like, I've been kind of craving going to Miami. I've been really trying not to, but it's been like in the back of my mind, like, let's go to Miami. Let's go to Miami. So one of these days, if I can work up the courage to actually want to go, I'll reach out to you and Caden and we should set something up. But yeah, so I've been going on like Reddit and looking at these different posts, trying to make content from them. One, because I think Reddit's huge, and I feel like it's a weird place where like content just goes viral and spreads. So that's part of it. Another part of it is because it's easy to kind of like create content from the stuff people are saying. Like you can kind of get a good idea of like what people find in common. It's almost like research in a way. Like you can really figure out what your target audience is talking about, get into their heads, and create content that panders is a bad word. Panders is a terrible word. But just resonates. I guess resonates is a better word. That create content that resonates with them. Or at least that's my thought process. Will it work out? I have no idea, but that's the thought process I had. So I saw this post earlier today. I was making like a few videos for this week's content for my YouTube videos. And this one guy was talking about how he was like 21, 20 years old, and he thought he was like a fuck up in life. And I found it so fascinating because from my perspective, the dude is killing it. The dude is a fucking animal. He's a beast. Little like tidbits of the dude, based on what he wrote at least. Started a business in like the finance industry. He had like some kind of I forget what it was. I think it was like some kind of like algorithm or some kind of like method for his business of helping like hedge fund managers, I guess, make more money. He didn't put the details, and I have no idea how much he made from this business. But according to what he wrote, it was relatively successful, and he ended up in going for about 2 years, and he ran into like some legal issues with insurance. So maybe there's like some kind of compliance stuff, or maybe he didn't have the correct insurance and he got sued because people probably, maybe somehow like hedge fund dudes knew and they just tried to like drain him of money. He ends up losing the lawsuit, but he doesn't go into the negatives. Now, I don't know the details behind that. Perhaps he had it like an LLC and maybe he just lost the LLC or whatever, or, went bankrupt. I don't know. I don't know the full details of it. But from the perspective that I could see, he's at zero. And he was comparing himself to his friends who are all like in the process of like graduating, or they're like a year away from graduating. And he felt like a loser. And I'm sitting there reading and I'm like, bro, how are you a loser? Like, just because other people are graduating from college doesn't make you a loser. Because he also, as a side note, he was not in college at all. He failed the business and he was living at home with his parents. And was attempting to start college as a mathematics major, but he hadn't done it yet. He said his classes are going to start in September. And I was like, bro, you're literally the opposite of a loser. Like, I know society will say you're a loser because society has crazy low standards. I'm not being mean, I'm just being honest. But I was like, from my perspective, one, you started a business. That's hard. Just the idea of starting a business, most people have ideas. Like, this is the crazy thing. Most people you meet have ideas. Most people you meet probably have amazing ideas when it comes to a business. And from what I've learned over the years is that businesses, like, ideas mean nothing. So many people will be like, yeah, I got this crazy idea for a business. Oh, I'm going to be rich because I have an idea. It's like, ideas don't mean anything. Everyone's got ideas. What matters, in my personal opinion, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, what matters isn't the idea, it's the execution of the idea. And I think even attempting to execute, even if you're executing in the wrong direction, puts you way further ahead than most people, because most people don't even have the courage to execute at all. Most people have the idea and they're like, nah, it won't work. And they just don't try. And them saying, nah, it won't work is not really like, they haven't actually like done research to find out if it wouldn't work. They just talk themselves out of it because they're scared of what could happen. They're afraid of the hard work that might come with it. They're afraid of the rejection. They're afraid of the failure. They're afraid of maybe losing things like money or maybe friendships or a social life, all that stuff. They're afraid. And that fear prevents them from actually doing anything. So I was like, bro, he's like 20 years old. He's already executing. That's awesome. I mean, he said the business was successful for 2 years. So maybe when he was 18 or 17, he started the business, which is even better. It's fantastic. Dude's starting young, which is the best thing to do in my opinion. So what if other people are graduating from college? Most people, when they graduate from college, they end up making like 50 at best, 50 or 60K a year for the rest of their lives, which is good. It's a good income. But as a business owner, sure, as a business owner, you could also be making like 50 or 60K, which is probably the average for most business owners. And you work harder, sure. That could be the other side of it. But I think the benefit of being a business owner is there's more upside to being a business owner if you're good. If you're at least like a better than decent, you could surpass that 50, 60, 70, 80K income. And you get more benefits from like taxes and stuff like that too if you know what you're doing. But there's not so much of a ceiling where if you're an employee, you're kind of restricted, sadly. Even if you're a good employee, you're restricted by your boss who might not want to raise your income because then it hurts the profits of the business and the revenue and all that stuff. So they're not going to give you more money. That's the sad part. What up, Ida? I just saw your thing. But yeah, so I was like, this dude's way further ahead. And I'm going to kind of just give like a little brief summary of what I said in the video. But I was like, if I was in his shoes, man, I would just stop listening to most people because most people are not worth listening to. I remember one time when I was in college, this is like after I think the first or second time I got kicked out, I was talking to my dad and I was like, I learned something interesting today. And he was like, what'd you learn? And I was like, most people are not worth listening to. Most people are genuinely not worth listening to. Most of the things you hear about society is not worth listening to. Like, not at all. Most people, when they talk about like health, they're not worth listening to. Like, people talk about health. There are people out there saying like, oh yeah, being obese is normal. It's good to be obese. It's actually quite healthy to be obese. You can just eat whatever you want. Calories don't matter. It's healthy. It's healthy. Fat is beautiful. Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. And that's probably a lot of people. It's probably most people in general. Money. Most people are like, oh yeah, I'll just work my job forever and then do my 401k and then retire. I don't listen to that either. I know that's conventional financial advice, but I think mathematically it doesn't make much sense because you work your entire life and then hope to retire when you're like older, which could work. And for some people, for a lot of people, it does work. But the issue is that when you retire older, your body wears down and there's not as much utility for money at an older age, in my personal opinion, as it is when you're younger. I think money's best enjoyed when you're younger. It's kind of like when you see a dude who's like 80 driving a Ferrari. It's like, you're going like 20 miles an hour because you're probably too afraid and too like mentally incontinented to go very fast in that car. You can't even drive it well. Who cares if you have a Ferrari? You can't go fast. That's the only point of getting like sports cars is to go fast in them and to like flex on other people. That's the only point of them. There's no other point. So if you can't flex because you're old and no one cares about the old guy with the Ferrari, and if you can't go fast, it's pointless. There's no point of having that car. So it's a waste of time. And then nowadays, most people don't even retire that young anyway, because every job's trying to like decrease the amount of money people make. It just takes longer to retire. All these countries are trying to like elongate the time it takes to retire, which is that's a whole issue in itself that I can get into in a different video. Yo, what's up, man? How's it going? But yeah, so when it comes to like people's financial perspectives, don't listen to them because most people don't know what they're talking about when it comes to money. Most people don't know anything. They just hear things from other people and they regurgitate the exact same information because that's what school teaches you to do. School teaches you to listen to the leader, your teachers. Who? Why can't I drive Sylvia then? Call it BS. But yeah, that's what school teaches you. It teaches you to listen to the leaders, listen to authority figures, accept what they say as fact and truth, and just go with it without challenging it. And that's not the way I think people will succeed, or at least I think to succeed great, like in a very great way in every area of life, you have to challenge the norm. Like all the people you know that are great in any way have challenged the norm There are no great people. I shouldn't say there are no, but I can't off the top of my head think of any great people that did not challenge the norm. You can put someone here in the comments right now, and I guarantee if you even put their name, chances are you put their name because they challenged the norm. Because if they didn't challenge the norm, they'd be average. They'd be like everyone else. Nobody. And that's fine. I'm not saying you need to be like this spectacular person. But the point that I'm making is that in the post, yo, Nate, what's up, man? In the post, the dude was talking about everyone's graduating. I feel like a loser. I feel like I'm fucking up in life. It's like, no, everyone's going to graduate and just be normal. You're the only person that's actually done something like interesting with their lives. And you're young. You're like 20 years old. You have so much time to do all this like cool stuff and try again. And I don't know. So like that was one of the first things I said in the video. I was like, just don't listen to other people. Because other people just give terrible advice. Most people give horrible advice. Even relationships. I didn't get in relationships. Relationships. Most people break up. Most people are divorced. Most people have really shitty relationships. Most people are not worth listening to when it comes to relationships. Most people are not worth listening to when it comes to anything. Money, health, nothing. So don't listen to most people. And that's already going to be like half of your problems solved. Because you're comparing yourself to already a super low standard of life by default. Don't even do it. And I was saying, like, in his position, because he had built up a business that was relatively successful for 2 years, in my personal opinion, what I think I would do if I was in his position, and he lived at home with his parents, so he had no real expenses. He had no rent. He had no car payments. He had no, like, I was like, this is a fantastic position. You couldn't have been dealt a better hand, like, in the grand scheme of things, unless you were born rich, which I would argue might not even be, like, the best hand. That has its own downsides in itself. But in the grand scheme of things, your hand is fantastic. You live at home with your parents. You're young, so it's not socially like looked down upon. It's socially normal to be a 20-year-old that lives with his parents. You've made some money. You started a business and you failed. Failure is actually good because when you fail, you learn something. I think there's like this Confucius quote, and don't quote me on this. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it's something like, there's one lesson in victory, but there's 999 lessons in failure. You learn more from losing than you do from winning. So it's good to lose. Now, in my opinion, I think it's good to lose while you're young. When I was in my early 20s, my whole goal was to like fuck up in my 20s on purpose. Like my goal was to literally do like the most extreme within limits. There's limits to it, but to do the most extreme things that I knew were risky and I knew that I could fail at. But I did it so that way I can learn lessons and I can take it to my 30s, 40s, and 50s, and 60s. And there are lessons that I thought most people wouldn't even have because most people wouldn't attempt to take such risks. That's why I did them, because it gives you an advantage over most people. And so far, I think that my hypothesis has proved worthwhile so far, because I see a lot of people in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and I feel like the things that I've experienced or things that I've come up with are not things that most people would come up with. And I think it's because I took more risks than when I was younger. So, I don't know. But he's taken like such a massive risk when he was like 17 or 18. He's failed, but he can learn a lesson from it. And I was like, dude, just start another business. Like you broke even essentially. Like you're at zero. You don't have any debt. You don't have any expenses. You can only go up. Like assuming you don't make any terrible decisions, you can only go up from here. So start another business. Don't do whatever led to the lawsuit last time. Like if you didn't have insurance, get insurance. If you weren't compliant, be compliant. Like legally be compliant. Correct your mistakes. Make that money. Stack money because you live at home. Stay at home as long as possible until they try to kick you out because that's fantastic for you. Then you can just either build up a big business by bootstrapping without taking out any loans, which is fantastic. That's the way you want to go. Or you can just put all your money and put it into real estate. Or, I messed up. You build your business. Or I was saying in his position, he could do sales. And because he was so familiar with the finance industry, he could probably find a good sales job with good commission with a product that he probably does like, that he could probably sell relatively easily, because if you start a business, chances are he has some skill in speaking or communicating or pitching or advertising, maybe like a little bit, at least a little bit, which I think is going to be advantageous to him in the grand scheme of things. So he could do sale, get commission. He lives at home with his parents. He doesn't have to drive. He has no expenses. This is a perfect situation for him. Make some money, stack it up. Then the grand scheme of things, he can either take the money from sales, invest it in real estate while still doing the sales job, or he could start the business with the money that he raised himself from sales or from the business, whatever, And also, in the grand scheme of things, invest that into real estate. Now, he doesn't have to invest in real estate. That's just a strategy that I'd personally recommend as like a nest egg. I think real estate's a better nest egg than it is in general, a financial vehicle. And it can be a financial vehicle. I don't, because as someone that's licensed as a real estate agent, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not a financial vehicle. But I think the issue with real estate is that it can be a bit slow. There's a lot of restrictions on it. And I think you can make more money. If you're looking at pure cash flow, you can do a commissions job and make thousands, if you're good, a month. You need money to get in real estate to start in general. And if you do find a property that cash flows, in general, it's probably going to cash flow like 100, 200, maybe 500. Maybe if you're super lucky, 1,000 at best. And that's if you're really lucky. And I've seen a few people that I know personally that have properties that cash flow that high. But the issue is that the property is so low quality. It requires so much maintenance and so much attention and so much time. And it attracts the worst tenants, which I think offsets the cash flow. Because you end up spending more money to like evict people, and it's more of a hassle than I think just getting a good property at a lower cash flow amount is. Hopefully that sentence made sense. Like, to put it simpler, I'd rather make $200 and spend almost no time on a property, like managing it, than make $1,000 per month, but spend 80% of my time managing the property. Because I feel like it ultimately balances out to the same thing, except you have the added stress. And I personally don't like that much stress. If I can choose to not be stressed, I'm choosing to not be stressed. But real estate can be slow. Making money through commissions is much faster if you're good. And making money from business also can be much faster if you're good. So I was like, he's in a good position. He's in a fantastic position. And the only thing that's really holding him back is truly other people just talking shit and making him feel bad about himself because he didn't graduate from college. Like, literally, who gives a fuck? If you're probably going to make more money than them anyway. So, I don't know. That's just me ranting. All the stuff that I was going to say in my story, but I chose not to say because I figured you guys wouldn't watch it because, I don't know, those 10-second stories or 30-second stories, I think when they're all stacked up on Instagram, they seem like a lot, even though it's really like 2 minutes total of like content. But definitely long, definitely way shorter than most of my YouTube videos, which are like 30 minutes. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. Don't compare yourself to other people because it's not worth it. Most people give bad advice. And also, one more thing before I get off. Most people's lives are not worth comparing yours to anyway. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who, I'm not even saying I'm sure. There are people who live really interesting lives and really appealing lifestyles. But I think the downside about comparing yourself is you don't know what's going on in that person's head. You don't know all of the bad things that person is going through or has gone through to get to that position that they're at. Yeah, we got some new people that joined. What is up? What up? But yeah, like I was saying, you don't know all of the downsides or all the struggles that person went through to get to where they are. And you don't know what they're going through to stay where they are. A good example. I'm not going to say his name because I think if I say it, Instagram might remove the video or they might shut it down. But a certain person that lives in Romania who's super famous just got arrested, like, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, something like that. Super influential guy, super popular guy, super famous guy. And a lot of young men model themselves, or they see his lifestyle as a model of what they could have. And I think that's okay. I think that can be motivational. But I think you have to be careful trying to compare yourself too closely because you have to sit there and say to yourself, do you really want that lifestyle? Do you really want to get arrested and put in Romanian jail or get arrested multiple times or always be under investigation, always have people talk bad about you, always have a negative reputation, potentially be extradited to a different country with its own different, maybe more harsh judicial system? Me personally, no. I wouldn't want that. So I would not want to trade everything about that person. Because you can't be that kind of person that trades like some things and then not like everything. Like, you can't be that kind of person that says, well, I want the money, but I don't want the problems. It's like, well, the problems are a part of what makes the money. So you have to take them both. The question is, what problems do you want to have? There are some problems that might not be that bad. They might be more manageable for you. There are other problems that might not be that manageable for you. Like, I don't know. I said this years ago. I know I'm like going on a lot, but, and feel free if you're watching this to leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this stuff. But I said years ago, I just know I'd beat anyone in my It's not the car, it's the driver. Good one. But some Fast and Furious stuff right there. But yeah, I said this years ago because we were talking about real estate, me and some friends, and I was like, I don't think everyone should invest in real estate. And I'm a real estate guy, but they were like, why not? And I was like, well, because by the time you start getting like more than like two properties, it's a business. It's a hassle. It's stressful. There's just all the stuff you have to do with the properties. Like most people, I think when they hear like passive income, they think to themselves, I'm going to buy a house and people are going to move in and I'm never going to look at it ever again. And it's going to just make me money. It's like, no, that's not how it works. From start to finish, that's not how it works. You have to get the money. You have to look for a property. You have to do math to figure out if the property is going to be a good property, if it's going to appreciate, if it's going to cash flow. Some of that's a bit of a gamble because you can't predict the market. You can't predict the area. Anything can happen in any area. So some of it's a gamble. You have to do maintenance. You have to consider taxes. There's so many things you have to consider when you're buying a property. And I was saying, I was like, most people I think don't want the stress that comes with that. By the time you get like, let's say 5 properties, so you're making like, assuming each property is $200 per month cash flow. Let's assume you have 5, you're making about $1,000 a month. By the time you get to those 5 properties, you now have a business. You have a business because you probably cannot manage all 5 properties by yourself. If you do, you're probably super stressed because you're doing all of the work alone. And I don't think that's worth it, to be honest, which means you probably have to employ either people to help you manage it, or you have to employ a property management company, which now you've started a business. That's a business. And I think for most people, it's not worth it. It's not worth the stress. It's not worth the organization. It's not worth the coordination. It's not worth it, which is fine. Not everyone has to go down that route. It's not necessarily the best path for everybody. For some people, I would say if you really want to get into real estate that bad and you really want to get some dividends and you really want to just attach yourself to the idea of being like a real estate investor, put money into a REIT, real estate investment trust. A REIT's more or less a similar strategy that'll yield not the exact same results, but if you want the title of being like a real estate investor, or if you want the, the idea that you're making like passive income, more or less it achieves the exact same function. Invest in REITs. Or if you don't care that much, go put in a Roth IRA. Go find a business that's in need of capital. Maybe it's a startup. Put money in the startup. Put money in some other business. Get some equity out of it get some equity in it while you're at it. Or if they pay dividends, get some dividends. There's a lot of ways to do the exact same thing, is my point. Sorry about the dog. But yeah, so that was pretty much my entire video. That's what it was all about. The dog barking means that my time is up and that I've gone on for too long. So I'm going to end the video right here. But leave some comments or some questions if you have any. I'm always open to questions. On my story, by the way, I have like a little sticker where you can put in a question and I'll make a YouTube video giving my 2 cents on it if you are cool with that or if you want me to do that. But yeah, until next time, I will see you when I see you. Peace out.